everything we did brought us to this moment. So anytime you're in interaction with somebody, their past is 100% equitable to yours because you've matched. Now you're at the point that you intersect. It doesn't matter where the line was. Yeah. But now you have a hand in where's the line going to go.
Not every battle has a success story, but every success story has a battle. Hi, I'm Tia Minzoni, CEO and co-owner of luxury private jet company Stella Jets, a serial entrepreneur, a survivor, and your host of the Fight to Fly show. On Fight to Fly, I sit down with the world's highest achievers who share their incredible stories and lessons they've learned on their own Fight to Fly. Expect to be inspired, entertained, and motivated to break down the barriers between you and your high-achieving success story. Come back each week for a new episode and be ready to empower yourself to give your dreams wings. Welcome to the Fight to Fly show. Welcome to this week's Fight to Fly show. This week, we're sitting down with Chris Jarvis. Chris helps wealthy people make more money, save more money, and do wacky stuff with their money, I believe is what you're known for. It's so funny because I was introduced to you by someone that I know in California who met you somewhere else. I don't remember where y'all were, Phoenix or something like that.
Las Vegas.
Oh yeah, Vegas. And then you're right here in our hometown. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then anybody else, that I've mentioned that you're coming on the show to, they're like, oh yeah, I read this book, or oh yeah, I know him. He does this. And I'm like, how come I didn't know him? So maybe I'm not wealthy enough yet to be in your circle, but I'm trying. I'm getting there. But thanks for coming on the show. I know that a lot of people have gotten some great stuff from you. So I'm excited that our listeners are going to get to hear Chris Jarvis on our show today.
No pressure.
Yeah.
I will try and be funny and insightful and interesting, and I'll do it all in 30 minutes.
All right. I got it. Where's the clock? No, where's the timer? So you've written some books.
I have 17.
17 books. When did you publish your first one?
1997.
Wow. Yes. That's awesome.
I'm old. Yes, I get it.
That was 26 years ago. It
was a while ago.
Yeah. I'm not good at math. I just had a kid that was born in 98, so I know. I'm not a mathematician like you. I think I'm a lot like a lot of entrepreneurs, and I don't think most entrepreneurs are mathematicians. Right? You have people that go into business because, for me, I'm passionate about helping people and about aviation. You have people who open restaurants because they're passionate about cooking and serving and so on and so forth. But most are not passionate about or super educated in
multiplication tables.
Yeah,
square roots.
Yeah. The financials of it. You know, I think being an entrepreneur, the hardest part is the financials of it. And you have to have people in your corner that know all of the ins and outs of that and what's going on to really be a successful business owner. So that's what you do, right? For people, for businesses.
It's a long and windy road. Okay. So it started with money. Again, mathematician, finance, actuary, MBA finance. I had a knack for tax. So people are like, oh, good, here's the tax guy. What a boring podcast this is going to be. But I got brought in because I have a knack for seeing patterns and solving things, very Rain Man-esque, I guess. And the people who want to save a lot of taxes make a lot of money. People who make a lot of money do a lot of wacky shit. I mean, there's no other way to put it. So there's a lot of ways to make a decent living. There's no set way to make a lot of money. So millionaires and billionaires have hired me for years, and I worked with thousands of them. And I've had a front row seat to wacky business models, cool business models. So I've seen a lot of interesting stuff, which is really great. So when I get brought in as a business consultant, I can borrow cool ideas that came from somebody's import-export business, or somebody's insurance management business, or somebody's food processing business, or whatever it might be. But what's really interesting is, despite all those cool things, everybody has a similar pattern, which is more money, more problems. With the money come all the other things. So the natural thing was, yes, I can do the money part. Yes, I can help you grow your business by borrowing cool ideas from other people I know or making cool introductions. But where it always ends up falling is in the psychology. And it's dealing with yourself. It's dealing with your staff. It's somehow trying to resolve the issues between home life, personal life. It's all personal stuff. I'm basically an extraordinarily well-paid therapist is what it comes down to. So that's the weird money, business, life, trilogy that goes into every business owner's life. So I look at it as you can't unwind those three things: your business, your money's tied to the business you run, and your soul is connected to the business. If you're any good, you care about what you do,
right?
And all the people who are involved. And so, how do you separate life, health, business, career, relationships, fun, if you even know what that is anymore, depending on what stage of your business? That's the unpacking that it's so common.
For sure.
People I work with, it's oh my God, how do I get my life back?
Yeah. Someone asked me the other day, they said to me, well, I hope on the weekend, at least on the weekend, you get some sleep. And I was like, yeah, make time for sleep once a month. It's really important to me that I get some sleep at least once a month.
It's funny. The most, for me, I've had, everybody that comes on the show has had some adversity, and I've been through divorce and business divorce and lawsuits and been kicked out of companies. I've been tried to kick out of companies that I started. And I've had a whole bunch of those things. But the real big takeaway from that is it's so what, now what? I've had a knack for, okay, what am I going to do next? I never spent a lot of time looking backwards at
for sure
what just happened.
Yeah.
I did that in my 30s with a lot of therapy. Time to blame mom. No, let's blame dad. No, let's blame the upbringing. No, let's
blame the government.
Let's blame whoever. Right. Find somebody. It was convenient.
For sure.
But it didn't get me anywhere.
Yeah.
And so then just developed this whole, so what, now what? What do we do next?
Yeah.
Which was looking forward helped. But I was that same person who never slept. I probably went 15, 20 years sleeping 3-4 hours a night.
Mm-hmm.
And then a year ago, my life changed dramatically when I started meditating every day. I was like, I'm too busy. My brain's too busy. I'm too distracted. I'm super ADD. I can't focus. But I really made a habit of trying to meditate, guided meditation at first, to do a little bit every day. And it's amazing how slowing down allowed me to sleep better. It allowed me to have ideas come to my head. It allowed me to resolve some things. It just took the edge off. I was able to speed up my business by slowing down. Nice. Which was completely unanticipated. I mean, it was the hope, but I can't say I had a whole lot of, I wouldn't have, I'm a mathematician, so I'm obviously not a betting man. I would not have bet on, oh, this is going to work out and change my life with me sitting there and focusing on my breath. Like that was not, it was not on the dance card that I would do that, but it's been huge.
That was a good side effect, I guess.
It was it worked out. I mean, I hoped it would have a good effect. I had no idea. I had a friend basically beg me. He offered to pay for the $99 app that I use. And it's like, I really would love for you to do this. I said, all right, if it's that important to you,
yeah,
I'll make you pay for it. But
that's nice.
I'll try it. And I found it to be, just helpful to change the mindset of everybody goes through stuff. There's always something. Always. But if you can stop for a minute and just take a breath, I find that the answer is if you're trying to remember that kid's name, someone's like, remember that girl in high school? I remember this kid. I remember the place he went. And I can't remember. And then 20 minutes later or 3 hours later, or you wake up at 3 a.m. like, Mel Torme. Some crazy thing comes to your head when you're not trying. When you try so hard, there's a block. That's true. And I found in business, when you try so hard to make the sale, you try so hard to convince people of things, it just doesn't, you get in your own way when you care too much, right? You take care of the baby bird and you squeeze it to death. Or the scenes. That's powerful. Where you call you call the person over and over again when you get the phone number and scare them off. I mean, there's so many, you can do too much. There's something to sitting back and not forcing. Yeah. There's, it's hard to find the balance because, and I listen to every single morning for like 30 minutes. We talked about my 30 minutes, but when I'm getting ready in the morning, I will listen to someone else's point of view. That's a big thing for me is hearing all kinds of different points of views and learning from people, bringing their frequency into my realm, even though I don't have access to them physically, all of that kind of stuff. A lot of what I listen to is like, you don't, go with the flow. Don't go upstream. Just let it happen. And then it's not going to happen if you don't take action. You got to work harder than the next guy. And I'm like, whoa, what do I do? Do I relax? And do I, let it all come to me? Or do I just work my ass off every minute? Because if I don't, somebody's going to take it from me. Right. Well, and where's my footing with those? Right. It's always like, those are such complete opposites. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. the working hard and making things happen absolutely is a necessity. I'm not saying you can sit there and just think your way. The whole I'm going to manifest in law of attraction, I'm just going to think it to happen. If you don't make any effort, nothing's happening.
Yeah. Don't you wish that's the way it works?
Yeah, so you can visualize it, which is great. But you got to do some work. You can't just sit there and wait for the world to unfold. That's great for my teenagers where everything gets paid for and taken care of by us. Like that's different.
Yeah.
But it's not realistic. So I think it's it's making an effort, but it's not being attached to the outcome. So that whole idea, my dad was a wonderful guy, professional athlete, great salesperson. He had a great mindset about things later in life. He was a bit difficult to deal with for the first 35 years of his life, but he had a moment that changed his life. But he'd give me some advice on they say trust the process. It was, you can only do the things you can do. You can't worry about the result. You do the thing you're supposed to do. It might work, it might not, but you can control that you did the thing. The rest is completely out of your hands.
Yeah.
Right? You do good work, but some people are thieves and they're not going to pay your invoice.
Yeah.
You can do a proposal and it's just not the right time because something else happened in their life. Or somebody doesn't like your hair, or they don't like the car you drove in on, or they didn't. Okay, like you can't control those things.
Yeah.
So you put yourself in good positions and then good things will happen.
Yeah.
If you don't put yourself out there at all, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, it just isn't. I mean, we met at an event. I had been to 2 events in 3 days in 2 different states. And I met literally like 14 people that I'm talking about business opportunities with versus I spent the last year writing 2 books, sitting behind my screen, building courses, doing all these, trying to, master manipulate the world from behind my computer. And I got more done in 3 days.
Yeah.
By getting out and just talking to people.
Yeah.
So that sign is stop being perfect, just be personal.
Yeah.
Is my takeaway. If you try to make everything perfect and arrange everything, and it's that old line, man plans, God laughs.
Right.
So, but if you go out and talk to people, you'll find get out and do the thing, have the activity, go live, try the conversations, put yourself out there, and then things will show themselves. But if you try to do it from your closet, from your podcast studio, only from the safety of behind your screen, or your TikTok, you're not going to change the world with a TikTok or with a podcast or with a book, or those are all tools. But if you don't get out there and talk to people, you won't have a chance to introduce them to the idea.
Yeah.
Or you use those things to get the face-to-face conversations, but you got to go live and put yourself out there.
Yeah. David Meltzer, our mutual friend, he talks about relationship capital all the time, and he's a master of it, absolute master of it. And so just from meeting him, my relationship capital has just grown outrageously.
And it took him introducing us, and we live a mile apart.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? That's hilarious. So tell me again what you said. You said, so what, now what, right? Is that what you said?
What, now what? Yeah,
yeah,
you are,
I love that.
Wherever you are, you are. And even with conversations, when you're in a conversation with somebody, I've had people say, oh, I just had this terrible thing happen, or I had this bad event, or I made this bad decision, or it's like, so what? You're here, we're here right now. Your life and my life at this moment are exactly equal in that everything you've done and everything that I've done have landed us at the same table.
Right.
Talking to each other. So if the meteor fell in this building now, we'd both go.
Yeah.
So our lives, everything we did brought us to this moment. So anytime you're in interaction with somebody, their past is 100% equitable to yours because you've masked. Now you're at the point that you intersect. It doesn't matter where the line was. Yeah. But now you have a hand in where's the line going to go.
Right.
Are we going to run parallel for a little while? Are we going to stay in the same spot? Are we going to do something new? Are we going to meet up later? That's up to you.
Yeah.
Or you and me. There's 2 people in that decision, but it's always okay. I'm here now. What do I do?
Yeah.
I can't change the past. I had all kinds of stories I told myself. I had for the longest time, I told people the most interesting thing about me isn't about me, because my dad had played professional baseball, and I was like, well, I can never live up to that. 17 books and a viral TED Talk and made millions of dollars and sold companies and worked with billionaires. And to me, it still wasn't as interesting as, well, who do you pitch for?
Yeah.
Like that, people still find that more interesting. And that's because society is enamored with sports, but okay, so what?
Yeah.
I can't change. I can look at it as, I can't be as popular as he is, or I can say he taught me to do the impossible.
Yeah.
Whichever story you want to tell yourself. So
at some
stage in my life, that story changed.
Yeah.
And it was, he taught me the impossible was much more interesting than he's more interesting than I am.
Right.
Always me.
And from the other point of view, I was actually at one of David Meltzer's VIP dinners, and I was sitting next to, a young, good-looking guy and his wife. And I said, "What's your business?" And he goes, "Oh, I don't own a business like the rest of y'all. I just play football." And somebody was like, "He plays for," and it was a pro team. Yeah, right. I don't remember exactly who, but David could tell you. But he thought playing football wasn't anywhere near as big of an accomplishment as what you had done or what other people in the room had done. So I think we all see that. We all see these, for me, and I think I told you my story. I'm very much your excuses are valid. Do it anyway. Right. So when I was recovering from cancer, recovering from surgery, and looking at all my unused potential, and I had a whole list of reasons why I hadn't started a private jet company, why I hadn't traveled to Europe, XYZ. And as I looked over those, I was like, every single one of those had my face on it. And some of them are very valid. I mean, I had cancer. That's a pretty valid excuse to not do something. Right. But I was like, F it, I'm going to do it anyway. Right. And that kind of became my motto. Now, I had said do it anyway my whole life to my kids, right? Like, wash the dishes. I washed them yesterday. Do it anyway. But it was also a motto for myself that, okay, I've been giving myself all these outside excuses. And when I took the control, it was so empowering to say, okay, every single one of these things that's been holding me back, I have some control over that. Right. It was so empowering. And from that point on, I just feel like, like the vines have been taken off of me and I can actually fly. Right. And when we talked about the show, Fight to Fly, a lot of it is that, but it's also fighting to fly. Like, it's not, a lot of times we hear people speak and they're like, this happened and I overcame it and now I'm here. And I feel like, where's the rest of the story? Because this happened, you overcame it, then that happened, then you overcame it, then that happened, you're still overcoming it, right? And so I think it's important that we're also transparent, that we don't just have this triumph over, we had tragedy and now we have triumph, but that it's okay. Give yourself grace. You're always going to be fighting for something better. Sure. And you're saying, so what, now what? I love that, because you can't change what happened. Right. You can't change what your circumstances are. Those may be very valid reasons for not doing something, but so what? What are you going to do now? Yeah,
they're not, I wouldn't say, to me, I wouldn't look at them as valid excuses. I would say that they could be accurate depictions of events in your life, but they're just events. They don't define you. I mean, what somebody thinks of you is none of your business. Right. What happened? So what? It happened. It doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And for me, like the journey, every time there's been a journey from a moment that was down to a moment that was up, it's always, people will say they're looking for the answers. And I keep saying, you need to be looking for the questions. Everything comes from being curious about other people's stuff. When I teach entrepreneurship, which I've done at 4 universities, I ask them, I say, you can be a billionaire. Don't say that it's bad that you're a millennial and you want to be a billionaire. I don't think that's a problem, but you just don't know the math. The math is, if you create $10 billion of value for one person or a lot of people, then you can have $1 billion of it. And 10% of the value created is a reasonable fee to ask. So if you create $10 billion of value, you can have $1 billion. But just to do a bunch of TikToks or think you're going to have or post videos on Instagram or whatever is not going to make you money unless you can solve somebody's problem. Right. Or entertain people so much that they then want to do this. So if you create the value, you can make money. So whenever someone asks a question, how do I make more money? Who are you serving? Do you understand them? What is the problem they have? What's the value of your solution? How is it better than the alternative? But you won't know those things until you ask the questions. So you really have to be curious. And I have another friend who says you have to be an asshole. Like, you have to ask not just for favors, but you have to ask a lot of questions and actually pay attention to the answer. You're not asking the question to wait for your chance to talk. You're asking the question to get information. Yeah. And the businesses that I built were all about learning a niche that I didn't know. Was it doctors? Was it athletes? Was it billionaire families? Was it family offices? Was it insurance companies? Was it I just asked questions and found that there were holes that I had some either ability, connections, or interest in solving some problems. And then the guy who solves problems gets invited back to the next party, because people in companies, I know one thing for certain, always have more problems.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you can be seen as a problem solver, you get invited to a lot of parties, literally and figuratively. So,
Yeah.
so I think that's that step is getting yourself out there and asking questions. And I will say in this fighting to fly thing, I went to a state school. When I went to grad school, people went to Harvard and they went to Yale and they went to Princeton and Brown and Duke and Stanford. And I went to the University of Rhode Island. And so I just say I went to school back east, hoping that maybe they would just assume I went to Harvard or assume I went to Yale. But what I found later was the things that I was embarrassed about were things that actually helped me connect with people better, because it's more impressive to be successful if you went to a state school or a community college instead of going to Harvard or Yale. It's more impressive if you became really successful if you did it as a divorcee or as a widow or as an immigrant or as that's actually a more impressive story than, I had a great childhood. My parents were rich and they're still involved in my life and they saved me a lot of money.
Right.
That's an easy path, but it's not the exciting path.
Right.
So it's actually more impressive that you had, what I've learned is those things that people are afraid to tell almost always become the most interesting things and the most powerful things you can share. And so my speeches have gone from trying to be the smartest guy in the room when I was insecure and maybe to convince people how smart I was, because I didn't believe that I was, to being the most vulnerable person in the room. Then all of a sudden there was great connection.
Yeah.
But that took saying, I'm just going to say the things that, I was divorced and I was suicidal and I lost all my money and all that shit happened.
Yeah.
But that allowed you to tell the story of, what did you do?
Right.
Versus, no, life's been pretty good and I just made a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
Which again, it's a nice, but that's what the person who introduces you says. But then you get in the room and you start talking about, you don't tell everybody. You don't want to be that person who's just constantly hearing all your dirty lines.
Right.
But no one wants to talk to that person either.
You will not get invited to parties that way.
You get invited once and then you get invited to leave. Right. So, but it's the things that the interesting thing is the things that you're afraid of sharing are the things that end up making connections.
Yeah.
And so, it's just a funny thing to be okay with who you are is who you are, and all that stuff made you where you are, and those stories are all they're all part of you, and it's all you can share it, and you can be interested in other people's things, and it's amazing when you're open to that how much people will tell you.
I appreciate when people are vulnerable like that, because if people aren't vulnerable like that, and one of the early people that I started listening to when I was trying to bring not super early, but early enough, trying to bring up my frequency through YouTube, right? Because I didn't have the right people around me yet. You see everybody here now. I love it. But it was people like, Ed Milet talking about how he was going out and giving these inspirational speeches about how to, be successful, and then going home and his water was turned off. Right. But he still had to get up there and do it and all of this stuff. And just knowing someone who, flies private jets and has, all these properties and is multimillionaire, billionaire, whatever, that they went through these struggles and it was okay. It wasn't like the end, and it doesn't make them not worthy or whatever. I think that is really empowering to people who are in the struggle right now. Because a lot of times we feel like we're the only ones. I'm the only one that has this problem. I must not be cut out for this. We give ourselves very, very little grace, and we give everybody else so much. So I think when people are vulnerable, like you are and like you're talking about, I think that's one of the most powerful things that we can do to help other people that are going through their own struggles.
I agree. I think people are so afraid of being canceled and so afraid of, that was a big part of my TED Talk was, surviving versus thriving. And people are so afraid of making mistakes that they don't take any chances.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't take any chances, you don't get anything done.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to get into that whole, put yourself out there. It's okay. The line that, what you think of me is none of my business.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful one. It's so simple. Yet every time I bring it up, you're like, wow, that's really good. It's like, it doesn't matter who cares what somebody else thinks about you?
Yeah.
Because that's their opinion, which is okay. It doesn't mean you go out and be a jackass. But the idea of do the thing you're supposed to do, get out there, be curious, share your story's your story.
Yeah.
And you can't please everybody. And
for sure.
That's a killer in trying to please everybody, because then you're doing nothing that's related. You're real safe.
Yeah. And it's also, if you're going out there and you're trying to put out the persona that you're perfect, for instance, that's probably a bad word, but you don't show your vulnerabilities, you don't talk about your struggles, and you put out this persona that you're this smart, perfect, everything's in line. That's something that you have to now live up to all those people around you. And that is so much pressure. I can't even imagine. I want everybody to know, I am not perfect. I am on my own fight to fly. I didn't just overcome it and all of a sudden I'm a genius and I know everything. Please give me grace. Right. And I try to give everyone as much grace as I can. And again, harder on myself than anyone else. But, talking about those struggles, I think is important, and not trying to be the smartest person in the room or be the most successful person in the room to get, whatever it is for people, how people are looking at you, because now you got to keep that up, and that right there can break you.
Oh, people will call me a financial fixer. So I get brought in when nobody else can figure it out, when their accounting firm, their law firm, their family office. So it's okay, let's see what this guy can do. So there's a high level of, there's a lot of pressure. There could be a lot of pressure, but even in that situation, I'm like, I don't know the answer to that, but I'll see if I can figure it out. Yeah. And it's okay to say no. No, I don't know. And there's there's some power to, okay, cool. You haven't seen this before. No, not exactly this, but we can work on it, or we can not work on it. But there's something to just saying, I don't know is a fantastic answer. And because of the work to try to find out what it is so that you can think you did it, that's so much stress. Oh, sure, we can do that. When you say yes to something you don't know how to do, and then you have to figure out how to do it again. Yeah. That's hard. There's a lot of pressure on yourself. For sure. And it leads to the same thing you were talking about, which is talking badly. And a line I used with somebody yesterday was if someone was talking about how she talks to herself. And I was like, if someone talked to your kid that way, you'd run her over with a car. Right. You would not tolerate for sure letting someone talk to someone you love the way you talk to you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that's exactly me. If someone ever treated me the way I treat me, I'd beat them up. That's a terrible idea. Right. But you're always our harshest critic. But I think your idea of the grace, the path is also never a straight line. And I think the best part about this fighting to fly is progress does not mean that tomorrow's going to be better than today, and that today's better than yesterday, and that Sunday's going to be better than Saturday. It means over a period of time, things will get better. Yeah. Generally, but they'll also get better in little bits. There is no such thing as balance, which is a chapter in the new book. Balance is BS, but it's over a long period of time, things can get better, but not everything gets better. When you were working on your cancer and you wanted to get healthy, I guarantee your business didn't do well. I guarantee you probably didn't have much fun because you were focused on your health. And then when you decide, I got to go on these meetings and I have to go travel all over the place, then all of a sudden your health's not so great because you're on the road, you're eating crappy food, you're sleeping in some place that isn't your own bed, and everything's give and take. Right. In life, but over time, everything gets generally better over a long period of time, but also not all at once. Yeah. So just give yourself the kindness that it's not, everything won't get better and it isn't a straight line. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Well, thanks for dropping all these bombs today, and I think it was a great conversation. I think a lot of people are going to get some good information. But for those who want more of your insights, I know we've got a couple of your books here. Where can they find your books? What's your most recent book, and where can they find you? So chrisjarvis.me is the website, and there's all kinds of ways to get to Amazon and other places from there. We have bundles and courses and seminars and all kinds of good stuff. There's a TED Talk, Chris Jarvis, Surviving Ain't Thriving. That's 14 minutes. If you're still awake and you've made it this far, then you can check out the TED Talk, check out the website, and send me a line. Drop me a line if you want anything else. I've got tons of materials and love to help any way I can. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. We'll have to have you back soon. Happy to do it. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Fight to Fly. And don't forget to subscribe for even more motivational content and lessons from high achievers. And be sure to follow Fight to Fly on your favorite social media platforms.